Hello, everyone. Appreciate you joining us today as we talk about capturing what matters, tracking engagement data for vision-aligned reporting or VAR. Happy to welcome you to this webinar. And before we get started, I just wanted to provide a couple of housekeeping notes. So we are going to record today's meeting, and we'll be sharing that recording with you following the session today. And then also just a reminder that the Q&A box is open and available. So if you do have questions that come up throughout today's webinar, we'll be sure to save a bit of time for Q&A at the end of the session today. So please feel free to use that, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. If for some reason we don't get to your question, one of our team members will certainly follow up with you. With that, let me just briefly cover what you'll hear today. So we're going to first provide a little bit of information about vision-aligned reporting, talk about how to prepare for it at your institution, also talk about some best practices and recommendations as it relates to VAR, and then talk more about collecting student engagement data, which is a key element of vision-aligned reporting. And finally, as I mentioned, we'll end with some Q&A. And with that, I'm excited to welcome our two presenters today. And Christine and Fred, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourselves to our audience today.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mirko, for that great introduction. Just to introduce myself, I'm Christine McCormick Hall, and I'm VP of Sales here at Ready Education. So I'll be presenting at the tail end of the presentation, but just so that you get to know me a little bit, I've had more than 25 years in higher education in various roles at different higher ed tech companies, from Ellucian to Anthology, now at Ready Education. Got my start in financial aid, so numbers is very important to me. I've worked at many community colleges and specifically in California. So I know you're a country unto yourself with all of the reporting requirements. So again, just very excited to be here to talk to you about this very, very important topic. And I'll pass it over to Fred.
Thank you, Christine. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Fred Rocha. I'm a retired Chief Information Services Officer with the state of California in the community college system. It was my pleasure to serve for 40 years and to have witnessed the transformation of technology and the way in which we work with data in the system. So my pleasure to join you here today and have an opportunity to talk about vision-aligned reporting and some of the things institutions should consider as they get ready for that first reporting year. So we're going to talk about what that vision aligned reporting actually does, and do that in just a moment. For those of you who are unfamiliar, or perhaps this is the first time you're having an opportunity to learn a little bit about Higher Digital. We are a global consulting service company. We specialize in digital transformation, change management, project portfolio management, and strategic planning. We are certainly purpose-built. We serve only higher education. We drive success through impactful change. We are vendor independent and agnostic. So a simple way of saying we work with all of the vendors within higher education. We are beholden to none and will always offer unbiased advice tailored exclusively to the needs of the institutions we are serving. We lead and function as change experts, and really helping institutions grapple with the change that's before them, and not just changes with technology, but changes with the processes that are involved, as well as the roles in which people serve within the institution. We have been providing and partnering with institutions to help with user experience services such as journey mapping. And for those of you who might be attending the Digital Future Summit coming up in Santa Clara, September 9th, 10th, and 11th, we'll look forward to seeing you there as well. So When we talk about vision aligned reporting, or sometimes simply the acronym of VAR, there's a lot of common comments that have been made to us, and we've been helping institutions for a little over a year now as they're grappling with this. And these are just some of the things that are very common that we've heard from our institution partners. The first and foremost, the one that we've heard the most is that MIS reporting is going to take care of this. There's nothing for me to worry about. Whoever my student information system provider is, they're going to be able to simply add the elements and capture this for us. That's not really true, and we'll get into that in a little bit later. The other thing certainly we've heard is that this really doesn't start until 2026, so I don't really need to worry about it. Well, again, that's not quite true either. We certainly know that there's going to be reporting that's going to be required in 2026, but the gathering and the functionality mapping really needs to have started, just about a year ago. I've been on several calls, asked a number of questions, but no one seems to know the answers. I would say that, at the beginning, that was certainly true. We had a number of our clients contact us out of concern that they weren't able to get the answers to the questions that they had. What we will say is that the Chancellor's Office has made great strides in working to get answers to any of the questions that are coming from the field, and it is certainly worthwhile to engage in those ongoing conversations. There's just one more report that we have to submit. What's the big deal? There's quite a big deal about VAR, and that is the alignment that we're going to see between the fiscal side of the house as well as the service side of the house. So to simply, in essence, treat this as just one more report, not really focusing on the accuracy of it would be a huge mistake. I'm concerned if we do it wrong, our resources and general fund and categorical dollars, that they'll all be negatively impacted. Well, that is a genuine concern, meaning that we should always, as institutions, be concerned about the accuracy of our reporting. What I would say is we've really wanted to focus institutions with those fears on how they can take that and instead turn that into an action plan, in which ways they can address any of the areas where they may have a deficit in data and find ways of being able to provide accurate information. So what do we know? Well, we know that each college and district is supposed to appoint an implementation lead and develop a cross-functional team. And many institutions took the opportunity when VAR was first announced to go ahead and appoint somebody. The challenge has been that those teams, in many cases, are just unaware or uncertain about what actions they're supposed to be taking at this time. So we've been trying to help clarify for them sort of that action plan going forward. We do know that there are 12 programs and activities that will be reported, and that there are about 5 to 6 categories that those areas are going to need to have sufficient data in order to provide both the state reporting as well as any district reporting with the data they need in order to satisfy the reporting requirements. The 2024 and 2025 data is to be manually reported by December 15th. There's been some thoughts that that date might slip. I would say, given the state budget at this point, meaning the concerns about any deficit spending, it's unlikely that you're going to see a slip in that date for one reason. They are going to try to figure out very quickly if the dollars that are being allocated in student service areas and other areas within institutions are seeing a return on investment that warrants that funding. So don't think that that date's going to slip at this point. It certainly is always a possibility, but I would not bank on that. The manual reporting will be done via the Chancellor's Office VAR portal. So we do know that there will be a specific area in which this report will be submitted. And again, kind of helps with the idea that it's not just an MIS report. There's certainly elements of MIS that are going to be part of VAR. But most importantly, knowing that there is going to be a specific reporting location for the submission. The 2025-2026 data will be MIS and manual. We've heard this again, that the likelihood of the transition with MIS as well as the inclusion of VAR will probably still be manual at this particular point. And we do know that there will be 3 new VAR MIS data elements that are being created. So those will likely reside within the student information systems. Each one of the vendors for SISs will be creating placeholders for that, but that does not mean that they will be able to capture the data as part of the MIS process. So as we try to help institutions who are getting ready for this, this is the basic 5 questions that we ask them to answer internally. First and foremost, do you know what data you need for VAR reporting? If you don't know what you need to report, it makes it very hard then to report it. And that one might seem obvious, but it is truly important to go through the Vision Aligned Reporting Manual, understand what data is being looked for, and understand whether you are actually collecting it. So as we, move on to the second part here about the collection of that data, if you're not already collecting it, you need to figure out what your plan is going to be for gathering it. And in some cases, it may be that there is a system or there is a software service or a platform that you already own, that you're already using, and may contain data that's relevant for VAR reporting. One of the things that we find, though, is that some of these reporting elements are not readily identifiable in the systems that are currently used at a college or within a district. And kind of the classic example is if you are providing, let's say, what we termed a golf cart service, right? So you have transportation where you're able to assist students getting from one location in a campus to another. That might be a service that you're providing, and it is often ad hoc, meaning it is not something that is regularly captured, regularly recorded. It might be on a clipboard. It at best might be in an Excel spreadsheet. That's an example of a data element that may be needed that you will have to think about how you go from a very manual process or a very one-off process to something that could either be captured regularly, perhaps even automated, or be using another one of your data collection systems in order to capture information like that. And if you do believe you're collecting the data, do you know where it is? And that kind of gets to that challenge we were talking about earlier. It's one thing to know the elements and know what it is that you're going to have to be reporting on, but it's another thing to understand where that data system might live. So if you're using, a CRM product, if you're using an advising product, if you're using some other service that may have this external data that is living in that system only, it's going to be very important to identify it and to know that you're going to have to be able to extract it. And then once extracted, how you're going to be able to normalize it so that you'll be able to use it for a reporting purpose. If you're storing the data that you need, how will you compile the reports? Will this be a manual process, or is this simply part of a current MIS reporting process that you have? So again, we know that the student service information system providers are doing their very best to ensure that any of the elements that they need to have placeholders for are created, but still getting that information from another data source and bringing it into that platform that you're using for your MIS reporting is going to provide the challenge. And working towards finding that solution and doing one that is going to be sustainable, that prevents this from having to be an onerous task over and over again, will be critical in the coming months and years ahead. And then lastly, what is your plan to respond to the first submission deadline? Um, the reason why this is so important to consider is that you may not be thinking about the people who will be playing a role within the submission process. As we know, it's one thing to gather the data. It takes a talented team to then look at the data and ask themselves, does it make sense? It's one thing to have the data before you. It's another thing to see if the data is actually accurate, if the data is going to satisfy the reporting requirements, and it's going to be in the format and standard that's required. So again, thinking about how you're going to respond should really incorporate not just the idea of the data and the reporting format, but the people that are going to be involved in that process. So there are the initial 12 programs for VAR reporting, and placing them in alphabetical order provides a little bit of context in terms of a checkoff list approach. So as you're taking a look here, you can see these are the programs in which you are likely already capturing some data, but it may not be in a tool that you're familiar with having to provide reports from. So if you take a look specifically, very common for disabled student programs and services to already have a system that they're using for tracking the services that are provided. The same is true certainly for CalWorks, and certainly for things like our Veterans Resource Center. But some of these others may be a little more challenging in terms of the way in which data is collected and understanding where it is stored. So I would treat these program lists, and if you were to take the slide after our presentation, ask yourself as you go through the various elements that need to be captured for each one of these programs, identify where that data is residing. That's going to be perhaps the biggest challenge initially, is just making sure that you have data available for these particular programs. If not, if you find yourself in the place where you do not have satisfactory data, perhaps for that first year, it may be possible, and I'm going to stress possible, to be able to identify that data was lacking to report, but that will not be something that will be available on an ongoing basis. What will be critical is to understand the specific type of data and the systems that it would take in order to collect that going forward. So what data is involved? So we know that there are existing data elements that are already being collected, and you can see the list there: the record code, the district and college identifier, term identifier, student identifier. Those are already part of MIS reporting, already readily available, and don't really pose any challenges for institutions. The new data elements that are to be included, you can see the VR code indicating their use for the vision to line reporting. So the program identifier, so just as we were talking about those programs before, the 12 value codes that will go along with those. The service identifier, which are the 51 services that are provided throughout those 12 programs, and then the service amount. So number of students served, a number of services that are provided, those types of information. Again, likely that you may have some sense of that, but know that you're going to have a formalized record of those service amounts. Aggregated data, so the variety of services that are provided, that could be extensive depending on the institution. The quantity of students served, so that seems as something that may not be a challenge. But if you do think about some of the activities where you may be having very large groups where you weren't collecting actual head counts, thinking about ways in which you're going to capture the quantity of students served in those type of events is going to become very, very important. Demographics of our students served. So again, that same type of information. Are they first generation? Are they, again, are they veteran? Are they a member of one of the other service areas that those services are provided? Important to think about the capturing of that information for the activities that are being provided by the institution. And perhaps the one that poses the greatest challenge for institutions, the aggregate costs of those services that are provided. And this is the one, quite frankly, that gives institutions some level of heartburn because they haven't often thought about identifying the total cost for any particular activity. There are some that are readily apparent. If there is a software that is acquired in order to provide that service, that's known. But again, if you're thinking about, I'll come back to the golf cart service. Are you thinking about not just the cost of the vehicles themselves, the charging, the cost for whoever the driver is that's providing those services? Those sort of elements begin to need to be contemplated, and ways in which that information can be captured and stored and reported becomes quite critical as we go through this process. So how can ready education support VAR requirements? Christine, I'm going to let you take that.
Okay, thank you, Fred. And Fred, feel free to jump in if you see a data element or something that piques your interest that you want to call out. But what I want to do is tell you first a little bit about Ready Education, and who we are. So here at Ready Education, we're focused on providing a platform that students will use every single day to become successful. Because in the end, it's really why we're here talking about our students. So we enable that in a variety of different ways, making it easy for you to target communications to the right student, providing them personalized information on what they need. And just thinking back to what Fred was talking about with all the different programs for VAR reporting, being able to push that type of communication and grow engagement through those programs is going to be very important. But not only do we do it for students in both a platform that exists obviously on laptops, but also on mobile communication as well. But we also focus on administrators too, making the administrator experience. So those of you who are listening in, for you by having everything that's going to be needed for engagement success in one platform. So as we go through the presentation, some of the things that you'll see I think are going to be targeted very much for the VAR reporting, and also, as Fred was saying, for the aggregate data elements that are new for the variety of services that are provided. So one of the things that our platform provides is being able to easily target groups of students and report on their progress. One of the target groups that I focused on, and Fred mentioned, is with the Veterans Resource Center with military. Majority and probably almost all of the community colleges in California have some sort of veterans program or veterans assistance out there and resource centers. So one of the things that we do is we can earmark students. So on the right-hand side, one of the things that you'll see are our active users within our platform. you'll notice that these students are actually tagged. So again, getting some of the demographics that Fred talked about of the students that we're actually serving. So you can see if they're on campus, off campus, first gen, and also tagged as veteran and military students. This offers us a way to be able to report those demographics on those programs that are served with those students. A student can have more, obviously, than one demographic than what we're showing. They can have an unlimited number of tags associated to them. And how do these tags get there? Well, they can be populated from another system, so your student information system or cohorts of students that you may have, as Fred said, hopefully not on clipboards, but maybe on Excel spreadsheets. We can bring that information in. So again, a lot of information that we can get from other existing systems imported in and be able to use that data readily. On the left-hand side, what you'll see are two experiences, one being from kind of a laptop look and feel, and then the smaller one being on the mobile. So again, we're taking the information to where your students are to make it quite a bit easier for those students to be able to get to the information that they need, and then also you all as administrators to be able to see the information. So again, configurable tags, that's your demographics, and also starting to take a look at the quantity. You'll also see on the right-hand side in the upper right area, there's also something called generate report. This will have the availability if you want to take that information off. We can do it in a CSV format, or again, we do have within the platform API capability. So you'll see a lot of pages within our solution. We'll also have reporting right within the active page for the administrators, again, making it easier for the administrators to configure what they need and what they have to get out of the system. Similar to that, we also have staff listings as well. You'll see, again, still focusing on the Veteran Resource Centers, that I have staff members that are tagged. Now, this is going to be important because not all of your staff members are going to have the accessibility to touch every single student across your campus. So think when you see these tags as well, that we can provide administrative security here. So that, again, your staff members aren't going to have carte blanche to be able to touch every single person or every single program across your campuses. So this is very similar. So it adds a layer of security around the different populations and programs that you do have. So again, reporting against a staff member is also going to be available. So you'll see in the upper right-hand side of the screenshot that we can also generate reports as well. And as Fred said, do you know the overall cost of this? This will help us also in the reporting for the financial and aggregated costs of the services provided. Because again, if we start to look at the number of staff members and salaries, et cetera, going into these different programs, this is also going to be very important, as well as having these tags and the staff members tagged appropriately. Now, for students, one of the other great things about us, and one of the unique things about the Ready Education platform, is that we can also provide tracks and checklists and pathways for success. So thinking about some of the other programs that are in there for VAR reporting, think about your transfer center. What are the different steps that students have to go through to get ready to move on from the community college into one of the California university systems? Checklist for workforce as well. So again, thinking about those students that are entering the workforce right out of getting their community college or two-year degree, having that pathway to success to enter into the workforce. So again, thinking about some of the other programs for reporting, this can play into it and layer into the students becoming successful and either graduating or entering the workforce. So again, thinking about CalWorks and your workforce programs, the Strong Workforce Local Share Program, it's a mouthful, for that particular VAR reporting. So all of this is going to be recorded, and also information on this can be visible for the students via, again, either their mobile application or the back end. And once we go to taking a look at the staff or advisors meeting on the next screen, this is something, and it's a tool that can be used during these specific meetings. So again, students can self-assign themselves into meeting slots if they need to, or as a staff member, I can assign a student to these meeting schedules. One of the things that you will notice as well is that we have advisor tags. So we know that Jane can advise a certain set of students. And then also for Teddy, one of the things in these advising slots, we can also get down to the minutes of the advising slots. So if you have to report off of time slots and the actual time used in these advising sessions or counseling sessions, that happens. And also you'll see on the far right-hand side, you'll be able to have private notes out there too. So I do want you to note that security is foremost here as well for private notes. And you'll also be able to denote too that did the meeting happen or not, or did it have to be rescheduled? So a lot of these tools are available. And again, think about those checklists that are out there that can be used in this academic advising session. So again, to help these students become successful no matter what of our programs that they happen to be in. Okay. One of the other things too is one-stop access to campus resources. Now, obviously with the programs that you have and the demographics of your students, you may have a variety of programs, and we're calling them connection programs within our solution. So again, think about the initial 12 programs for VAR reporting. All of these could be specific connection programs within our solution. So again, these different solutions, you can assign students to them. So again, think of all of those different tags that we looked at from the beginning. So students can be imported into these different programs, or students can come out here and also self-initiate themselves into these different programs. And again, be vetted via a workflow if they really fit within the qualifications of the different programs as well. So within this, we call this our connection programs. So again, being able to see what's available, because again, students, coming on, especially first-time enrollees or adult students coming back for the first time after a break may not know what you are offering. So again, with our connection programs, they'll be able to browse what happens to be offered at your institution. And this code can go beyond the different programs that we're collecting out here as well. So you can get very creative with this, as some of our institutions have done. One of the other great things with this, and embedded right within our solution too, is really assessing the engagement with surveys and evaluations. And again, think about reporting or questions that might not be, as Fred said, kept on a clipboard. You might not know, but you do want to get some feedback out here. We can map events and activities to learning outcomes. We can have some automated feedback collection processes as well with our survey tool that comes with the solution. So it's not an outside survey tool that you'll have to get. So again, you can evaluate real-time data to either make program changes, add more activities, or adjust things on the fly, and also to work with other campus partners to create specific targeted activities. And this actually happens to be a survey from one of our clients as well for what they are collecting. And again, think of once we have the data, we can report on the data. So this will help you be more successful with the large number of programs that you're going to have to be offering and not have to rely on IT or another tool to create these survey mechanisms that are out there. So again, embedded right within the tool as well. And as we're talking about reporting, you'll be able to see that we have embedded, again, you don't have to rely on another reporting tool, but very easy engagement for reporting. So again, the ability to edit columns, you don't have to be a reporting expert or guru, but you'll be able to edit columns, add different fields out there, select your columns. And then also we have pre-delivered reports as well. So you'll be able to see dashboards of different types of events as far as registration, who the reached audience was. So again, taking a look at number of events, number of registrations, and then also, different things by groups. And with the point and click, you can look at what's happening today, yesterday, or last semester, this semester, et cetera, or the past 2 years to get your information. It's all coming right within the Ready Education platform. So again, predefined reports, or you can prepare your own as well. All of this data too is available via API, or you can export the information. This reporting helps you to make informed decisions out there. And as far as informed decisions out there, this is real-time reporting and dashboarding. Again, being able to look at this instead of waiting for IT to generate reports for you, you'll be able to look at real-time data right from our reporting within the Ready Education tool. And remember, from the beginning, some of our pages also have reporting right on them too. So query pages within our solution, you'll be able to get this data and export out to your data warehousing solutions to produce the reports, like Fred said, that are going to be imminent come December. The last piece that I do want to touch on as well, and Fred made a great point about this, is what does it cost us? Do we really know the full cost of the services that are out there? And again, taking a look within our solution, we actually have a budgeting module. And what this allows you to do is actually capture the amount, total funds requested, and also tie into your finance solution as well. So this is going to be very important to know how much did this event cost. We can get cost down per student as well. Remember, we also have the staff members tagged as well. So if you have to pull in staff salaries or timings of the events, we do have and can produce the aggregate cost of the services provided and do it on a per student served basis right within our solution. So again, hopefully that you'll be able to see that some of the things that we can do is we can track your programs, again, collect data items and data elements that are not collected anywhere else. We can quantify the number of students, contain all of the demographics, and then finally produce aggregate costs of the services provided for you to help you with your reporting that is due, as Fred said, December 15th if the date doesn't get switched. So with that, I'll turn it over to Q&A.
Thanks, Christine and Fred. Appreciate that. And now, if you haven't already asked questions in the Q&A panel, please feel free to do so. And we do have a few questions that have come in already. So Fred, I think the first one is for you. Just with your experience working with institutions on this, what part has been the most challenging for institutions as they start to collect some of this data?
That's a great question. I think so many of the institutions that we have assisted have one very common problem, or challenge, I guess is a better phrase. And that is they have lacked the central repository for this type of data, meaning they really depended upon the student information system to be the golden repository. And they have not always contemplated the need for either analysis or reporting to be conducted outside of sort of the standardized reports that they had available. And this is a very different mindset that the chancellor's office is asking California schools to participate in. And as Christine was pointing out, the financial element of this is the shift, is the change. It's introducing the idea of a return on investment. So as institutions have captured data, that's usually been the element that's missing, meaning they do have the POs, their purchase orders, or they do have other pieces that help to inform that, but it was never thought about how they would collect and utilize that data for actual analysis. So having, just with what Christine was showing, with the ability to capture that sort of granular information that identifies all the various costs goes a long way to helping institutions solve that very common and very large challenge. The one other thing that comes to mind as well is the idea of the isolated data, meaning that spreadsheet, that clipboard, that access database that was running off of somebody's PC that was unknown. And once that's surfaced, once that element is identified and they went, oh, wait, this staff member was collecting that sort of information. It just wasn't done in a way that made it easily reportable or even could be gathered and safeguarded and stored securely. Once that was identified, then finding a systematic way of going forward is been that other challenge. So helping them identify partners who are going to be able to take that information, cultivate it and care for it and then report on it has been really, really common questions and concerns that we've heard.
Thanks, Fred. And let me ask a follow-up question that I'll open up to both of you, if you don't mind. You just gave that example of somebody on campus or at the institution capturing data on their own. What are some best practices about finding out about where some of that data lives? I think sometimes that's almost as much of a challenge as then moving the data into a system and developing a process. But any suggestions from either of you, having both worked on college campuses, of how you identify where some of that hidden data is?
One thing that comes to mind, and we always refer to that as sort of the shadow IT, right? That systems that are running that are relatively unknown. What we find is that if you talk to program directors, if you talk to deans, if you talk to those individuals who are intimately aware of the activities that are in their program or their service area, they're generally the ones that do the incremental confessions, right? That they reveal slowly over time. Well, yeah, we do have this database that we're capturing this information. Oh, yeah, we're using this product. And it's not necessarily that they don't want to have that information in a better location or in a better process. It was generally born out of necessity and then just really wasn't matured, if you will. And as long as IT can come to that as a solution provider, not as somebody who's trying to police it in the sense that they're trying to shut something down. It's no, how can we do that and provide that in a better manner, in a more secure manner, in a way that's going to allow you to use that data and hopefully not be dependent upon the knowledge of a single individual and have that single point of failure should that person move, should that person retire, whatever the case might be. Hey, they could win the Powerball, never have to work again, right? And then all that knowledge goes away. Finding ways in which you can work with them to help them find the appropriate solution becomes the dialogue that helps surface that.
Yeah, and one of the things I found too is if you have any semblance of like an institutional research person, that could be the person that starts with, because they're the good person to aggregate a lot of data and they know where the nooks and crannies are and the hidden closets of who's keeping the different data. The other thing that I would suggest too is an enablement program on the importance of why this data is important. And you may get people raising their hands saying, oh my gosh, I am collecting this data. Is this something that you could use? So the importance of why we're reporting it, and just getting that word across staff members of the importance of why we're doing what we're doing sometimes achieves the outcome of finding the data.
Really good
And Chris,
points.
I was just going to add to that, and excuse me, that's absolutely, I love what you just said, Christine, because what we're really talking about is data coaching and data
Mhm.
mentorship, right? Helping individuals who really do want to provide great service, who do want to be able to showcase what they're doing, but may lack the understanding or the training that would assist them in both the collection of that data, the storage of that data, and then the sharing of that data.
Yeah, and at Cerritos, one of the things that they're doing, so they're a current client of ours, is they're currently using it for veterans and also some of their equity programs. And one of the things that they do is they are actually showcasing those different programs to others. And I think part of that enablement is kind of an aha moment for the other groups or programs that want to get started utilizing a standardized solution and collecting this data.
Great points. The one thing I was going to add, I think, Christine, to an earlier comment you made when you said just explaining why we're doing this, the answer is not because it's required for the VAR report, right? It's talking about the benefits of really looking at and diving into this data, like Fred talked about. But I think sometimes we, just in casual conversation, we may mention, oh, yeah, we need it for this report or that report. While that's true, always be thinking about the perception you're creating with individuals. So if you focus more on the benefits of vision aligned reporting and what it can do for the institution, that may be a better way to get people to buy in and be open to participating. That brings me to another question, though, that came in, and I'll direct this to either of you, but who should be involved in this process? So we heard institutional research already. Fred, you talked about IT and MIS and some of those individuals, but who else and how large a group should it be to really get this moving and going at an institution?
Well, service, the actual service providers. So I'll think of student services as the example here. So as you're engaging this sort of work, it really becomes important to answer the why. And your point about this is more than just a report. This is about the ability to tell the story of the institution and the services they provide. For for many, they are quite passionate about the service to students, the service to populations, the service that is transformational in making that student journey through their higher education process achievable. And what generally is lacking is the narrative, right? It is easy to have, in some cases, a single qualitative story where you can tell, the story of an individual or a particular case. But it becomes important to also have the quantitative data that talks about the large variety of people that are being served, the large number of services that are provided, and how each one of those are an important piece to providing both the safety net and a support service that's going to get students through that process. Because that's ultimately what all this is about, finding ways in order to enable students to achieve their educational goals. So if you focus with the actual providers of those services and get them engaged in that discussion and help them understand that what is really trying to be achieved here is the narrative that gives both the qualitative and the quantitative portions of their work a spotlight so that, whether it's the board of trustees, whether it's the college leadership or the district leadership, but perhaps even more important, so that the students know what's out there and what they're able to utilize. It goes so much further than just a report that has to be filed with the state or has to be filed with anybody in particular. It really helps to portray the great work that are being done at colleges all across the system.
Yeah, and I'll echo that, Fred. I think like Mirko, your question was like, how big, how many number of people need to be on the committee? I think if you ask that, it would be a large number, but I think like what Fred was saying, we need to start from the top down. So the board of trustees need to be aware and then slowly filter it down to the bottom, which would obviously be the students for the different programs and awareness that's out there. So again, it's all about education and enablement of these programs on the campuses.
Makes sense. And this doesn't have to be scary either, I would add, right? Again,
No.
it's about figuring out whether you're collecting this data already, figuring out where it is, if not, making a plan to collect it, and then really seeing it as an opportunity for the institution. Christine, one question that came in that's, I think, more for you, and the question is sort of, I think there's some intrigue or interest, I should say, in some of what you shared about the platform. But the question is more about what else is part of the platform, I think, in a nutshell, beyond what you showed in the screenshots today, because I mean, that was just a small element or elements of what the platform offers.
Yeah. So again, being focused specifically on the program, some of the things we didn't get to show were what we do with really clubs and organizations and events. So again, we can be very tailored towards the clubs and groups and organizations. And then some of the niche things that you can do with our product as well is we have something called Campus Table as well. So if you think of students who again have food issues and could be other things too, like the Career Center that is putting out clothing for students going on interviews as well. So we do have some niche applicability to Campus Table. And then also, again, we can also do some things with family engagement too. So we have clients that are utilizing our platform for family engagement too. So again, parents are another cohort that are often forgotten about in the whole realm of things, especially when we have students and especially first-time entrants into college or into the learning atmosphere. The parents are often, a good support system for them and including the parents. So again, we can track all of that student engagement from clubs, orgs, but again, some different niche things, like I said, Campus Table, family engagement is another one. And then also we have job boards too. So there's also a career side to our platform too. So thinking about this with, some of the strong workforce, local share with job boards and things like that. So we do have, it is a full, very robust and configurable platform. So our clients have taken use of that quite readily. So kind of in a nutshell, we do a lot more than what I just portrayed in the slide decks.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine. And then the last question is one from me here as we get ready to wrap it up. And that's just what one piece of advice would each of you have for institutions that are somewhere in this process or looking to get started in the process of vision aligned reporting? Fred, let me start with you.
I think the first thing that I always recommend is to look at tools and platforms like what you were just demonstrating here with the Ready Education platform, to examine ways in which it can be fully utilized so that in essence you're creating a single stop for every service, for every program that can utilize it. Because one of the challenges is if you have so many tools, so many platforms, so many data sources, it becomes overwhelming to think about how you're going to collect that and report it. And that's where IT and student services can really come together to say, oh, we have this one platform, this one service, this tool that we're currently utilizing to do this. And it's how do you then meet with that partner provider and say, we want to expand the use so that we can incorporate and capture this wealth of data. So if you examine what you're currently doing and try to figure out how to make that more sustainable, more affordable, and more universal throughout your college and throughout your district, it will be to your benefit. And it will, in essence, drive again that return on investment and that value that you have in that product and that service and that tool. So that's my big recommendation to each and every institution.
Fred, I really like that. It brings me back to my higher ed days when I was on an IT committee, and we, as the committee members, took on talking to various departments across campus and just finding out what software they were using and categorizing that. And looking at that, we found multiple solutions that did the same thing, right? So
Mhm.
it does enable and encourage some conversations across campus to streamline some of the products. I think that's a great piece of advice and something I'd encourage everyone to do if you don't have that type of document already at your institution, and then take it the next step further and talk with partners, like Fred said, about what's the potential. Christine, what's one piece of advice you would give everyone here today?
Take a deep breath. It's not as hard as what you think it is. The data's there. And again, the whole reporting piece is coming out in waves as well. So again, if you're not right, the state always sends it back. There, you can correct it. So I think take a deep breath. It's not as hard as what you think, and there's resources out there to help you and make sure you use those resources.
Really good point. All right. Well, with that, I don't see any other questions that have come in. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope to see you at a future webinar. And thank you, Christine and Fred, as well, for the presentation and more details and information about vision aligned reporting. Much appreciated. And with that, I wish everyone a great rest of your day. Take care, everyone.